Ohio. Minsk, the capital of Belarus, the administrative center of the Minsk region and the Minsk district, which part owned as is an independent administrative and territorial unit with the special capital status. The largest transport hub, political, economic, cultural and scientific center of the country. Is a kernel of the Minsk agglomeration. The 10th most populated, without suburbs. The city in Europe, the 5th after Moscow, Street. Petersburg, Kiev, Tashkent in the territory of the former USSR. The city is located near the geographical center of the country and stands on the river Vizlochi. The area is 348.84 km. The population minus 2,009,786 people without suburbs. Most likely, the name of the city happened from the river Menka, who was in flow of Psich. Patronymy can be explained from Indo-European *2 men, small, compare Old Russian Emnia, Praslavyansky *ems, smaller. At the end of the 16th century, single cases of the use of a form Minsk were noted. Further, in process of strengthening of a Polonization, the percent of the use of the Minsk form increased. The second half of the 17th century. However, also Minsk didn't cease to be used. The Minsk form disappeared from official documents only in the 18th century. Since 1502, the Minsk form was used in Latino and Polskoязычny documents. Minsk. Similar transformation of the name of the city in Polish happened under the influence of the Polish Minsk Mazowiecki as a result of influence of the Ukrainian dialects. At the end of the 18th century, after sections of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, writing of Minsk steadily was enshrined in Russian language documents as the mechanical translation of the Polish Minsk form. The spelling and literary norm in Belarusian were created only at the end of the 19th century that affected also formalization of the name of the city. It didn't settle by this time. The oral use of a form Minsk was still fixed. The last was noted by the Belarusian ethnographer Paweł Szpilewski in the Geographical Dictionary of the Kingdom Polish. 1885. Also Szpilewski published a legend of origin of the name of Minsk. According to this legend, Minsk was the founder of Minsk. Since 1916, in the environment of the Belarusian intellectuals, the name Minsk Belaruski was fixed. Belarusian Minsk Belarusk. It remained at the German and Polish occupations, was used in documents of the Belarusian emigration. At the time of peace, the name Minsk for some time became standard again and everywhere was used in official documents in Belarusian up to July 29, 1939, when the Supreme Council of Peace the resolution changed the Belarusian name of the city to Minsk. This renaming, according to the Belarusian historian Z. Shibiko, was caused by strengthening of Stalin repressions against national shots of the Republic. According to the Belarusian historian 5. Olyakovsky, renaming was fixing of Russification in B's at the level of names of the cities. Since then the man's form is the standard name of the city in Belarusian. However, some media, authors and online projects using a pre-reformed Taraskivika. For example, Radio Svoboda, the Arch magazine Pachotek, etc. concerning modern Minsk and also printing historical editions, including official, for example, books of publishing houses, Belaruskaya Encyclopedia, Belta, etc. Concerning the period of history of the city till 1793 used the Minsk form. In 1991 the Minsk City Council of People's Deputies appealed to the Supreme Council to return to the city a former form of the name Minsk, however was refused a request. 142 deputies voted for return of the name Minsk at necessary 173. In Polish the name was historically used. Minsk Litewski. Minsk Lithuanian, from Grand Duchy of Lithuania. And later. Minsk Białoruski. Minsk Belarusian. To distinguish Minsk with the town in Poland Minsk Mazowiecki. Now the Polish word Minsk almost always designates the Belarusian capital, then the administrative center of the Minsky county in Mazovia, which is usually used with specification. Minsk Mazowiecki. Minsk is located on a southeast slope of the Minsk height having an origin. It was formed during the Salo's freezing, the last, reached this territory. Average height above sea level 220 m. The most sublime part of Minsk, 283 m, is located near Leszczyński Street, behind House No. 8. Before building of the city on the west such point was between Tymyryazov streets and Kharkiv. The lowest mark, 181. 4 m, is in the southeast of the city in the floodplain Wyzloci in the residential district Chizauka. See the Chizovsky Reservoir. Distance from Minsk to the large cities. On highways. Russia Street. Petersburg tilde 790 km. Russia Moscow tilde 718 km. Lithuania Vilnius tilde 180 km. Latvia Riga tilde 490 km. Estonia Tallinn tilde 795 km. Belarus Novopolotsk tilde 234 km. Belarus Vitebsk tilde 287 km. Belarus of Grodno tilde 287 km. Belarus Mogilev tilde 210 km. Belarus Brest tilde 353 km. Ukraine Kiev tilde 586 km. Belarus Gomel tilde 312 km. Moderately continental, with considerable influence of the Atlantic Sea air. An average annual amount of precipitation, about 700 m. The summer is warm but not roast. Average daily temperature in July of plus 18.5 C. The winter is soft with frequent thaw. Average daily temperature in January 4.5 C. In recent years the accurate tendency to temperature increase during the winter period was outlined. Average annual temperature, plus 6.7 C. The absolute maximum of temperature, plus 35.8 C. was registered on August 8, 2015, an absolute minimum, 39. 1 C. On January 17, 1940. Average annual speed of wind minus 2.4 m/s. Average annual humidity of air minus 77%. As of December 31, 2006, the territory of the city made 306.68 km. Further, on November 22, 2007, 5.2715 hectares were transferred to City Line. 0.05 km. Territories of the Minsk district. 116.95 more hectares. 1.17 km. Territories of Smolovitsky district of the Minsk region were transferred to city boundaries of Minsk on July 21, 2008 following change of borders of the city, and its territory took place on March 26, 2012 when the territory of the city increased on the 4095.812 hectare. 40.95 km. Earlier being in the Kolodzinsky village council of the Minsk district of the Minsk region. As of March 26, 2012, the total area of the lands which are in city boundaries of Minsk was 34,884.43 hectares. 348.84 km. For the state already about 1/3. 30.71%. Territories of the city of Minsk. 10,714.37 hectares, or 107.14 km. Was outside the Minsk Belt Road, while in her limits the territory of the city made 24,170.07 hectares. 241.70 km. Or 69.29% of the urban area. March 11, 2016, the land plots with a total area of 0.8486 hectares were transferred to city boundaries of Minsk from structure of Smolovitsky district of the Minsk region. On July 10, 2018, from structure of the territory of Minsk, the site of 1.48 hectares was transferred to structure of the territory of the Minsk district of the Minsk region. It was connected with need of association for uniform land use of Shabana, who is settling down near the industrial zone of the enterprise for production of tobacco products. On May 22, 2018, for implementation of the project on construction at the National Airport Minsk of the second artificial runway, the line of Minsk from structure of Smolovitsky district of the Minsk region included the land plots with a total area of 158.44 hectares. On October 14, 2019, for complex development of the territory adjacent to the National Airport Minsk, the land plots of legal entities with a total area of 321.56 hectares were included in line of Minsk. In structure of Oktyarsky district. From structure of Smolovitsky district of the Minsk region. Provisions of the Master Plan of the City of Minsk developed in 2010 in pursuance of the decision of the Minsk Executive Committee of the City Soviet of People's Deputies of August 2, 2006 No. 1526 provided the territorial growth of the city up to 54,200 hectares. 542 km. In borders of his prospective development, what increased the square of the city of Minsk up to 35,042.24 hectares. 350.42 km. In 2016, the master plan was corrected so what, according to his new version, the prospective area of the city of Minsk for 2030 has to make 38,100 hectares. 381 km. Near the city there passes the watershed of basins of the Baltic and Black Seas. Through Minsk the river Svislak, into which within city line 6 more small rivers flows. All of them treat the Black Sea basin. Height above sea level in city boundaries fluctuates from 184 to 280 meters that, together with two many terraces of the river Svislak, causes a difficult land relief. Capital reservoirs in the summer of 2010 were suitable for bathing. Constantly there is a planned sampling of water, by results of a research pathogenic microflora wasn't found. From the middle of May until the end of July, 2010 about 28 tons of mowed seaweed were taken out on a dump. For the spring and autumn period of 2011 from Vizlochi took about 400 tons of garbage. Drinking water to the city is delivered. Data for June 2011. From two sources, underground and superficial. Deep well drinking water. From the total amount of drinking water, more than 60% is consumed in areas. Lenin, Mayday, Soviet, Central, Factory, Guerrilla and partially October districts. The Franz, Moscow, partially October districts, superficial sources. Special processing. Water intakes. Ostrova and watering place. The station of deforestation. Are in structure Minsk Vodokanal Unitary Enterprise. Are planned to opening. In 2013, the station of deforestation on water intakes of Felicianova and Petrovshchina, 2014, on a water intake Vitskoshina. Big squares of Minsk are reserved under green plantings and parks. However, within the city the large industrial enterprises continue to work, and the number of cars constantly grows. In warm season in the city the threshold limit value of formaldehyde in air is repeatedly exceeded. In some areas the air pollution problem, dioxide of nitrogen and firm particles less than 10 microns in size, Cheech, is particularly acute. On the volume of emissions of pollutants in nearby stationary sources, Minsk following the results of 2010 appeared in Belarus on the second place after Novopolotsk's 31,000 tons mined 50,000 tons. In 2013 this indicator was 26.6 thousand tons. For 2003-2008 the general emission of pollutants in Minsk grew from 186,000 tons to 247.4 thousand tons. The ecological situation in the city worsened because of partial transition for economic reasons to fuel oil instead of natural gas as fuel. However, the most part of pollution are the share of cars. On the last indicator Minsk slightly concedes to the Minsk region minus 160.5 thousand tons mined 182.5 thousand tons. 109. 2,000 tons carbon oxide, 31.8 thousand hydrocarbons, 15.8 thousand nitrogen oxides, 3.6 thousand solid substances. Particles. Made 100 tons of this volume, dioxide of sulfur, about 110 kilograms. A. Furine. Among the enterprises the greatest share of pollution is the share of the enterprises of mechanical engineering and power. The Minsk tractor plant, the Minsk jet -4, the Minsk jet -3, the Minsk automobile plant, the Minsk plant of the heating equipment, the Minsk thermal networks, the Atlas, etc. In 2012 total emissions of pollutants in air from stationary sources made 26.6 thousand tons, including firm particles -2. 4,000 tons, sulfur dioxide -2,000 tons,
nitrogen dioxide minus 5.2 thousand tons, carbon oxide minus 11,000 tons, not methane volatile organic compounds minus 4.7 thousand tons. Following the results of 2013, the general level of emission of pollutants was 25,000 tons, including 2190 tons of firm particles, tons of carbon oxide, 870 tons of dioxide of sulfur, 6910 tons of nitrogen oxides, 4270 tons of not methane volatile organic compounds, 610 tons of other hydrocarbons.
From 2005 to 2012, the amount of deformed production wastes of all types increased from 1.15 million tons to
1.62 million tons, and water use by the city decreased from 253.7 to 184.5 million tons.
The highest level of concentration of dioxide of nitrogen and carbon oxides falls on 17-19 hours in cold season and 20-21 hours in warm.
In the city, short-term excessive threshold limit values of harmful substances, in particular, formaldehyde and ammonia in the neighborhood of the Minsk automobile plant and the residential district of Shabani is sometimes observed. Significant amounts of chrome V and dioxide of nitrogen are also registered. The most polluted Timoryazov Street, Chelyuskinsk, Bogdanovich, Radial, Kazins, Sharangovich, Sudmalis, Shabana, Babruysk, Shores, Liberty Square and their vicinities. The southeast part of Minsk. Factory, Lenin and guerrilla areas. Is the most polluted in general. The Republican Center of Radiation Control and Monitoring of the Environment. RTERCM. Controls average daily concentration of firm particles of rheum-10, nitrogen dioxide, level of formaldehyde, carbon oxide, a dose of gamma radiation. For prevention of pollution of RTERCM in case of approach of adverse weather conditions sends warnings to the enterprises. Besides, the city periodically holds a complex of events, clean air, during which mobile posts on check of cars on compliance to environmental standards will be organized.
In 2009, the Ministry of Natural Resources and Environmental Protection considered the possibility of introduction of the offer on the ban on entrance to the downtown of cars with not eco-friendly engines.
In 2008, intention to take out for city boundaries of the enterprise of the third hazard class, including Moz and Mans, was sounded. Above-mentioned initiatives of improvement of an ecological situation in Minsk aren't realized so far, to be exact, sacrificed to economy of budgetary funds.
The government of the country and a management of the city don't see an improvement of an ecological situation in the city of Minsk of a priority. In many respects it happens because of misunderstanding of all completeness of consequences of long-term inhalation of the polluted air.
In particular, one of the most terrible consequences of inhalation of the polluted air, cancer.
Not only lungs.
Has a time log. Delay. Between cause and effect. Influence of carcinogen and clinically diagnosed developed cancer form. About 10-20 years. Improvement of ecological dynamics is promoted by development of the cycle movement. Public organizations together with GAE and city administration develop bicycle infrastructure. In Minsk the number of bicycles increases. In Minsk the division of GAE, which was earlier responsible for control of emissions of motor transport, is abolished. and the City Ecological Committee on performance of these functions has no number of staff of employees, that is regularly to conduct this work there is nobody.
In the last decade to specify the environmental problem in Minsk is aggravated with the widely adopted practice of consolidation. Dense building of earlier already created areas is made.
This practice allows to reduce the price of construction due to lack of need to make investments in infrastructure. A supply to new buildings of communications, pipelines, roads, objects of trade, etc.
But at the same time generation of automobile exhaust gases on one came.
Squares of the city sharply increases in view of increase in density of building, and dispersion worsens because of a bad product of the city.
At the same time the condensed sites of the city which were earlier sites of dispersion of exhaust gases and other air pollutions become the centers of generation of pollution. During heavy rains in Minsk a number of the central city streets located near the river Svislak including one of the main transport arteries of the city, Nyamiha Street regularly floods.
At the beginning of the odd years for the solution of this problem construction of the central storm collector began and, on assurances of the chairman of Minsk Nikolai Ladutko, in 2013 the downtown will cease to flood. Nevertheless, as of 2014 the problem of shortage of capacities for collecting rainwater remains, and the central city streets are filled in with rainwater from higher places. The earliest settlements in the territory of the modern city are dated the 9th century. The valley of the river Svislak was populated with two East Slavic tribes, Krivichi and Tregovicha. About 980 the territory of the modern city was included into the Polotsk Principality. The first annalistic mention of Minsk contains in the story of temporary years. It belongs to 1067 when sons of the Kiev Prince Yaroslav the Wise were under walls of Minsk belonging then to the Polotsk Prince Veslav Bryachislevich. The Vet refused to hand over the city, however brothers of Yaroslavichi took and destroyed it, and then broke in fight on Nyamiha, within a present central part of Minsk. Veslav Bryachislevich troops which approached to the aid. In a year 65-75 Veslav, Bryacheslav's son lifted a host in Polotsk, and occupied Novgorod. Yaroslavichi, Izyaslav, Sviatoslav, Vsevolod, having brought together soldiers, went to Veslav to a hard frost. Also approached Mensku, and the Menina in the city. These brothers took Minsk and interrupted all husbands, and captured wives and children and went at Nyamiha, and Veslav went against them. Opponents on Nyamiha of month of March in the third day of Stratitsia. And snow was big and went at each other. Also there was a Secha cruel, and many fell in it, and Izyaslav, Sviatoslav, Vsevolod, Veslav overcame Iran.
After Veslav Bryachislevich death in 1101 his sons divided possession of the father into destinies, therefore Minsk became the capital of the certain principality.
Gleb Veslovich became the first Manx prince.
The capital status and an advantageous geographical location promoted economic development of the city and his transformation into the large trade and craft center, what results of archaeological excavations testify to.
However, frequent internal wars of princes. Campaigns to Minsk in 1119, 1159, 1160, 1161 are known. Prevented prosperity of the city.
Approximately from the first half of the 13th century, the city and the principality disappeared from pages of chronicles. There are no data on the events connected with Mongolo-Tatar invasion in 1237-1239, but later attacks of the Golden Horde and also disintegration of the old Russian state strongly weakened the principality.
For the protection, Minsk probably addressed Grand Duchy of Lithuania, which strongly developed at this time. The following mention of the city is dated only 1324.
Under name M.
He is mentioned in the section, Lithuanian Cities, Analytic, the list of the Russian cities distant and near. The end of the 14th century. In 1385, Grand Duchy of Lithuania and Kingdom Polish signed the Krewski Union, and later, in 1401, signed the Wileńsko-Radomski Union, which was even more strengthened the union of two states. In 1441, the Grand Duke Lithuanian Casimir IV gave to the city the Charter of the Exclusive Cities. On command of his son Alexander J. Jelin in 1499. According to other data, -1496. The city acquired the Magdeburg right. In 1565-1566 the city became the center of the Minsk voivodeship and Minsk County. In its structure. On 1591 Minsk was granted the coat of arms.
The original document didn't remain, however there is his copy in which there are next lines.
With Kutu that, Pokazuchin volume Karesau Gierski, to an Odoba and a courteous Zakavani of that place of our Menski, I will bother on to the press Mestski on town halls to a fikr Panjna of Mari, and in 7 a leaf Fimilavati to you to a fikr ordered.
In 1569 the Lublin Union, which finally united the Polish Kingdom and Grand Duchy of Lithuania in the uniform state, the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, was signed.
In free diet of the neogenic state 2 rooms, for the voivode and a castellan were made for the Minsk county.
In addition, each of 2 other counties of the Minsk voivodeship, Resika and Mazur, the Sejmik, which sent 2 deputies to Diet and to the Lithuanian tribunal, had.
To the middle of the 17th century Minsk became the important economic, cultural and religious center of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, especially for Orthodoxy. But at the same time, in view of migration of Poles and Jews and also in connection with transition of Ashliata to Catholicism in Minsk, large communities of Catholics and Jews also appeared. After the Brest Union, Orthodoxy gradually gave way to an uniatstvo.
Gradually also the national image of the city changed. Many representatives of the nobility and the intellectuals were Polonizovana. From the second half of the 17th century in Minsk, the sessions of the main tribunal of Grand Duchy of Lithuania were held.
In 1654, during the Russian-Polish War, 1654-1667, Minsk was taken by troops of the Tsar Alexei Mikhailovich, which kept the city till 1667. During war, Minsk was completely destroyed. In it there were only 2,000 inhabitants and 300 houses. A second wave of destructions followed during Great Northern War when in 1708 the Swedish King Karl XII took the city. A year later Minsk was taken by the Russian troops.
Besides that of the population and destructions, both wars led to decline of city economy. In the 18th century Minsk became the periphery of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth and didn't play any significant role. By 1790 the population of the city reached about 6,500–7,000 inhabitants, having returned there by 2 indicators of 1654.
As a result of the second section of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth in January 1793, Minsk was annexed to the Russian Empire and on April 3 the same year became the center of the neogenic Minsk province. In 1795 the decree of the Senate of Russia cancelled the Magdeburg right for Minsk. On January 22. On February 1796 on the approved report of the Senate the new coat of arms was appropriated to the city. During the Russian era development of the city began again. In 1805 the first public park was open, and by 1811 the population totaled about 11,000 inhabitants.
During Patriotic War of 1812 Minsk was taken on July
20. On 15 on November 27. Was occupied by the case of the Marshal Dewat.
18 The first Minsk newspaper in Polish, Tymczasowa Gazeta Minska, was issued on July
30. 1812. According to the plan of Napoleon, Minsk, also evacuation point for the sick and wounded military personnel, was turned into the central Proviansky base of the French army, the combined center for the lag-behind parts.
By the end of summer of 1812 under warehouse and infirmaries buildings suitable for it in the city, including churches, monasteries, synagogues and schools, began to reconstruct all. As a result of marauding and requisitions, a considerable part of housing stock was destroyed.
The population of the city by the time of his release by the Russian troops made about 3.5 thousand people. The last disorders of the 19th century in Minsk happened during the Polish Revolt of 1830. Suppression of a mutiny of the Polish Szlachta led to change of national and religious nature of the city, to gradual reduction of the Polish population and elimination of Uniacki arrivals, and the fact that in 1835 Minsk was included in line of the Jewish settled life promoted growth of the Jewish population of the city. Throughout all the 19th century the city continued to grow. In the 1830th years all main streets and the areas were paved by a cobblestone. In 1836 the first public library, and a year later the first fire kalancha was open. In 1844 the first theater was open. By 1860 in Minsk there were 27,000 inhabitants. There was an intensive building of 2- and 3-storied houses of the top city. Laying in 1871 through Minsk of the railroad Moscow-Warsaw became the major event which influenced further development of the city. And in 1873 Minsk became the railway junction as through the city paved the Lubovo-Ramenski Railroad. In 1874 in the city there was a water supply system, in 1890, phone, in 1892, the horse tram, and in 1894 the first power plant. In 1900 in Minsk there were 58 factories and the plants. On a census of 1897 in the city there were 91494 inhabitants. More than a half of the population, 47561, were made by Jews. In 1909 43.3% of Jews, Russians minus 34.8%, Poles minus 11.4% lived in Minsk. 3 on March 15, 1898 in the city the I Congress of Erzurk took place. The long world was interrupted with World War I in 1915. After approach of the German troops, the city became frontline. Since August 1915 in headquarters of the Western Front, the Minsk military district, the 10th Army were placed. In Minsk the set of hospitals and warehouses was located. During war the German airplanes and airships repeatedly subjected the city to bombing. The Brest-Lithuanian World allowed on February 21, 1918 the German troops to occupy Minsk.
It was preceded by events on February 1921 when attempts of seizure of power by the Polish and Belarusian activists were made.
On March 25, 1918 at 8 in the morning in Minsk occupied by the German troops, in the building of Country Land Bank on Serpuhovskoy Street. Nowadays Volodarsk.
Rada Belarusko of the People's Republic accepted the third authorized diploma.
Belarusian.
Russian which declared independence Belarusko of the People's Republic. However, after the defeat of Germany in World War I and signing of the peace agreement according to which Germany was obliged to disengage troops from occupied territories, the Soviet government denounced the Brest-Lithuanian World and directed troops to the territories left by the German troops.
Rodovny left the city after the receding German troops, and on January 10, 1919 the Red Army without fight occupied Minsk. The city council declared establishment of the Soviet power, and to the middle of February 1919 the Soviet power was established almost in all territory of Belarus. On January 1, 1919 in Smolensk the Soviet Socialist Republic Belarus. Serb. As a part of the Soviet Russia was proclaimed, on January 7 Minsk became the capital of the neogenic Soviet Republic, and already on January 31, 1919 Serb left structure of the Soviet Russia and was renamed into the Belarusian Soviet Socialist Republic. Minsk became the capital of the new republic. However, already on February 27 the Soviet Belarus was a part of the Lithuanian Belarusian Serv. Litbel. Vilna became the capital of Litbela. As a result of military defeats in the course of the Soviet-Polish War. 1919-1921. On April 28 authorities of Litbel were evacuated from Vilna to Minsk. July 19 was necessary to leave also it, and on August 8 the city was occupied by troops of the Polish Republic.
On July 11, 1920 the Red Army occupied Minsk, and on July 31 the government of the Belarusian Soviet Socialist Republic returned to it.
Long-term war strongly destroyed the city, but in the first years of the Soviet power his restoration began. In 1921 in Minsk the Belarusian State University and the first scientific library was created. In 1924 29 plants, a set of movie theaters, schools, hospitals worked already, large complexes of new building were built. In 1928 in Minsk the Academy of Sciences was created, same year the first production of bread plant appeared. In 1929 to the line there were first Minsk trams, and in 1933 the airport began to work.
In 1934 the building of the State Library of 5.1
Lenin was built. A big event in town planning and architecture of Minsk was the construction on the project of the architect Yosef Langbrod of the Government House of Bees. 1929-1934.
This largest public building of Kardam.
One of the best monuments of constructivism, laid the foundation for formation of the new downtown Lenin Square. In June 1941 the city was exposed to air bombings from the German aircraft. Already on June 25, 1941 the German troops approached the city, and on June 28 Minsk was occupied. From outside the Bolotnoye station the city was entered by the mechanized parts of the 3rd Tank Group of the Colonel General Hermann von Gott. Therefore the city became the center of the General District Belarus as a part of the Ostland Requisariat. The 44th and 2nd Shooting Buildings of the 13th Army of the Western Front participated on June 25, 28 in defense of Minsk. On June 26 to the north of Minsk, in the Ostroshitsky town, the German parachute landing which occupied the airfield for transport planes, therefore their troops and the easy equipment began to be transferred landed. So the Red Army left the city of Minsk, neither Sovnformbureau, nor other Soviet Massachusetts media reported. In 1939 the population of Minsk made 238,800 people. During war about 70,000 Minskers died.
In Minsk the German occupational authorities created 3 Jewish ghettos in which during occupation more than 8,000 Jews were tortured and killed.
In total in Minsk and vicinities more than 400,000 people, including 5,000 people in the camp Small Trostanets, 80,000 in the Mastyukokchina camp, 20,000 in the camp on Shirokaya Street, were killed.
On June 29, 1944 the Minsk Operation, a component of the Belarusian operation, began.
Troops of 3 Belarusian fronts with assistance of the 1st Baltic Front took part in her.
By the beginning of approach of force of the Red Army surrounded strength of the 4th and partially the 9th the German armies of group of center armies with a half ring.
Troops of the 3rd Belarusian Front were to the north of the German parts, army of the 1st Belarusian Front to the south. As a result advanced forces of Russia by June 29 were closer to Minsk than the main forces of the German troops. 100 km mined 130, 150 km. It was planned to surround the German parts and to free Minsk. On June 30 troops of the 3rd Belarusian Front forced Berezina and soon released located near the city. On July 1, Borisov, on July 2, Logoysk and Smolvichi. At dawn on July 3 the advanced parts of the 3rd Belarusian Front as a part of the 2nd Guards tank case entered the city from the east and the northeast. The 5th Guards tank, 11th Guards and 31 armies. All of them entered the city from the north. Entered Minsk, and in several hours from the southeast the advanced parts of the 1st Belarusian Front. A part of the 1st Guards tank building and the 3rd Army entered. The city was defended 1 tank also by 3 infantry divisions of Wehrmacht, 3 regiments CC and other parts. By the end of day on July 3 Minsk was freed. Thanks to it to the east of the city of 105,000 German soldiers got to the Minsk copper. The troops which got to an environment were broken by July 11. Following the results of Operation 53 connections and parts received honorable names, Minsk. Actively guerrilla connections participated in Operation. At the time of release of the city by the Soviet Army on July 3, 1944 in the central regions of Minsk there were only about 70 not destroyed buildings. Suburbs and the outskirts were damaged much less. On July 16, 1944, on Sunday, in the freed Minsk the guerrilla parade was held. Belarus as the first territory on the way of the coming troops suffered huge damage from war. The most part of buildings and constructions in the city were ruined. Only according to official data of the Extraordinary State Commission on Establishment and Investigation of Crimes of Fascist Aggressors, in Minsk 23 largest enterprises were burned and blown up, 4 hotels, 47 schools are destroyed, cultural and scientific institutions are plundered and destroyed. The sewerage, a water supply system, telephone and telegraphic and transport networks were put out of commission. The general damage caused for years of occupation, according to the same statistics, is estimated approximately at 6 billion rubles by estimates of the time. In 1945-1946 biscuit and wallpaper factories, the first and second bakeries earned. In the early 50s on Sovetskaya Street capital shops like Gum or Dynamo were open. Minsk was referred by the decree of Presidium of the Supreme Council of the Belarusian Tsar of May 14, 1946 to category of cities of Republican subordination. Were constructed the Minsk motorcycle and bicycle plant. On November 6, 1945. And since 1951 the motorcycle plant. Then the first MA motorcycle was created. On May 29, 1946 the Council of Ministers of the USSR adopted the resolution on creation in Belarus of the Minsk tractor plant. Minsk automobile plants. 1947. In the first half of the 50th years the bearing, hour and radiator plants and also worsted plant became operational. Minsk turned into one of the main centers of the Soviet Union in branches of mechanical engineering and high technologies, with the developed culture, healthcare, education, transport and science. The products of the automobile and tractor plants became the hallmark of the Republic in the world market. In 1952 in the city there was a trolleybus, in 1982 the international airport, and in 1984 the subway opened. Since 1991 Minsk is the state capital, Republic of Belarus. The status of the city of Minsk is defined by the legislation and the charter. On September 5, 1991 the City Council of People's Deputies approved a historical municipal coat of arms. The city also has a flag and the anthem. Today in the capital more than 600 streets and avenues. In 1991 in Minsk the headquarters of the CSIS was placed. In 2006 in the capital protest actions took place. In 2010 the opposition organized protests at the government house. In 2011 Minsk was affected by revolution through social networks and the Stop Gasoline. In 2016 in the city there passed protests against Presidential Decree No. 222, and in 2017 protest actions against Decree No. 3 about prevention of social dependence took place. In 2020 Minsk became the center of the events connected with the presidential elections which took place in the country on August 9.
Within many months in the capital the numerous marches and protest actions caused by the next re-election of Alexander Lukashenko for a post of the President of Republic of Belarus took place.
Executive power is presented by the Minsk City Executive Committee, and legislative, the Minsk City Council of Deputies. Also for implementation of youth policy at Mingorsoveta in 2007 the recommendatory body of youth parliamentarism, Youth Chamber is created. Now the territory of Minsk is divided into 9 administrative regions. Central District, Sovetski district, Pervomaysky district, Guerrilla area, Factory area, Leninsky district, Oktyarsky district, Moskovsky district, Frunzensky district. On a census of 2019, the population of the city of Minsk made 2,018,281 persons.
At the beginning of 2011, Alexander Lukashenko expressed opinion that the population of Minsk should be limited to
1.8 million people, and in July 2020, despite already more than 2 million population, he said that it is impossible to overpopulate the city. From 2005 to 2012, the coefficient of birth rate grew from 9.4 to 12 on 1,000 people. In 1990, 14. The mortality rate decreased from 9.6 to 9.2 on 1,000 people. In 1996. The general coefficient of natural increase of the population grew with 0.22 plus 2. 8 on 1,000 people. Plus 7.8 in 1990. The expected life expectancy grew for the same period with 72.3. 67 at men and 77.2 at women. To 74.9 years. 69.6 at men and 79.4 at women. In 2012 in Minsk, marriages 8.2 on 1,000 people. And 81.21 divorces were registered. 4.3 on 1,000 people. On both indicators, the city exceeds average values on regions of Republic of Belarus. Year number 1897 90912, 1926 128,043, 1959 509,667, 1972 card, 1989 1,607,077, 1999 1,680,567, 2009 1,836,808, 2014 1,921,800, 2019 1,992,685, 2022 1,020,600, 2021 2,009,786. After the Great Patriotic War, the large plants, mechanical engineering, machine tool construction,
actively were under construction that led to inflow of the population to the city and steady lag of conditions of accommodation of citizens from quantity of driving was formed.
For decrease in problems with housing, hostels actively were under construction. In 60 to 70th years. In the 1990s, conditions for registration from 6M changed. Living space on 15M. Total area that improved living conditions from 60,000 persons in need to 110,000. For the beginning of 2010, about 33,000 families lived in hostels. For 2010 under housing, 32,000 apartments were leased. In 2010 the volume of the entered housing with state support was about 80%, in 2011 75%, in 2012 shouldn't have exceeded 50% and then decreased gradually. Since the beginning of the 2010 years in the city, as well as in the country in general, it was headed for construction of rent housing. In September 2013 in Minsk, the first houses with rent apartments. At the same time, the lease agreement is cancelled if the employee leaves the company or put in operation. The number of the citizens needing improvement of living conditions from 2005 to 2010 grew from 171.2 to 279.9 thousand citizens. Families. And by 2012 decreased to 259.2 thousand.
Security with housing for the same period grew from 19.2 to 21.2 m. From 2005 to 2012 the number of housing which is annually put into operation grew from 843,000 m
up to 1048,000 m. However, because of financial crisis of 2011, formation of new housing cooperatives in the city sharply slowed down, and the term practically ceased to be reduced by housing. By 2014, in turn, after revision of the list, there were 235,000 people.
At the same time, in 2014, housing was under construction for the people standing in a queue since 1989.
On January 6, 2012, Alexander Lukashenko signed Decree No. 13, according to which only the few categories of citizens, large families, military personnel, staff of bodies of internal affairs, judges, public prosecutors, workers, families with disabled children of the I and II groups and others could apply for a soft loan for construction of housing. Officials suggest to take those someone doesn't fall under new requirements. 65–70% standing in a queue. The credit in accordance with general practice, under 31% per annum up to 15 years. In 2012.
Since the beginning of the 2010 of the authority of the country and the city headed for turning of construction of housing within the city and in the next territories contrary to the approved master plan.
Instead, the idea of building of satellite towns was put forward.
At the same time, the president of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko, imposed the ban on building of the agricultural land near the Minsk ring highway and on the remained fields in her, that meant including turning of construction on already prepared plans.
In 2012, the population at working age was 1217. 3,000 people. 64% of the population. And the number of economically busy population minus 1,078.8 thousand people. Unemployment rate in Minsk, according to selective inspection of National Statistical Committee of Republic of Belarus, was 3.9% in 2017. In bodies for work, employment and social protection, it is registered as jobless, 0.2% of the population at working age. 2017.
However, according to official statistics, unemployment rate in Minsk is 0.3% of the total number of economically active population.
3,340 people.
Data for February 2011. At the same time, in Minsk recognize existence of the considerable unregistered unemployment on the basis of data of a census of 2009.
Then 5.6% of able-bodied population of Minsk. About 7,000 people. Defined the status as the unemployed.
As the reasons of a considerable divergence of official and real unemployment rate call need of participation in public works and the small size of a dole.
At the beginning of 2011 in Minsk, the grant made 68.2 thousand rubles, $22.5 at the rate for February 2011 at the average size of the budget of a living wage in 296. 9,000 rubles, and in the second half of 2010, 50,000. $16. That is one of the lowest indicators in the territory of the former CCC.
At the same time, Alexander Lukashenko voiced opinion on need of reduction of the sizes of ADOL as too big.
According to Committee on Work, Employment and Social Protection of Minsk, on average on job search at the registered unemployed no more than 2.5 months left. Average age of the registered unemployed minus 34.6 years. From 2005 to 2012 the number of pensioners in the city grew from 401.9 to 475,000 people. Minsk, the largest economic center of Belarus. The total volume of tax revenues is about a half from total amount over the country. Just Transgaz EP Lukoil Belarusia, Rup Minsk Crystal. The producer of alcoholic beverage products. VP Welcome, Minga's Unitary Enterprise, Rup Minsk Energo, Rup Boltelcom, and Elstabak Invest, IU, Yunis Oil, and Jest Prior Bank were the largest taxpayers of the city in the first quarter 2011. In total they provided 40% of receipts.
In the first quarter 2011 of 54% of receipts in the consolidated city budget it was the share of the non-state enterprises, while in 2010 46.6% of receipts fell to their share.
In 2010 about 25% of tax revenues were provided by small business. The gross regional product of Minsk for 26.4% is formed by manufacturing industry, for 19.9%, wholesale trade, for 12.3%, transport and communication, for 8.6%, retail trade, for 5.8%, construction. Specific weight of the gross regional product. Verb. Of the city in the Republican gross domestic product. DDD. Is 23.7%, or 120 trillion rubles. About $12.8 billion. Minsk, the largest industrial city of the country. In the city 18.8% of industrial output of all Belarus are produced. There are largest assembly enterprises. The Minsk tractor plant producing about 8-10% of the world market of wheel tractors, automobile plant MAZ, the plant of wheel tractors. Vola trademark. The producer of the MAMS diesel engines, 3 machine tool factories. Of Kirov, a name of the October Revolution, the plant of automatic transfer lines of Masharov. And also the Amkada plant, producer of road building and other specialized machinery and equipment. In the city a number of the enterprises for production of accessories. The motor plant, the spring plant, the plant of gear wheels, etc. The car repair plant, the motorcycle and bicycle plant, Luch watch factory, the Belarusian Optical Mechanical Association. The 407th aircraft repair plant and others is also located.
Electronic industry is rather developed. In Minsk, the producer of electronic products, Integral, the producer of TZ, DVD players and Horizon household appliances, the producer of refrigerators and Atlas household appliances, the producer of household appliances, the Belarusian radio-electronic plant.
The electromechanical and electrotechnical plants work. After the collapse of the USA, the new enterprises, such as Balkamish, nowadays one of the producers of the electric transport, largest in the CISIS, which was created in the early 90s on the basis of the repair tram and trolleybus plant, were organized. The food industry is presented by the alcoholic beverage plant Minsk, the Crystal, Krinitsa beer factories. Krinitsa, Alexandria, Colt and Kolsenberg brands. And Alvaria and Brover brands. Communarka and Sladek confectionaries, several bakeries, the dairy plants, cold storage facilities and meat processing plant. In Minsk, the enterprises for release of clothes and linen, Laft Serge, etc. Footwear producers of cosmetics, Belita Vitex, Modem, Nasha Cosmetica, Bela Dese, the Belarusian worsted plant and also a number of the small enterprises of light industry work. Building industry is presented by Jest Karaman, plants of concrete goods and other enterprises. In 2012 the enterprises of mechanical engineering of Minsk produced, in particular, 20,000 trucks, 7,000 tractors, 2,000 buses, 172 trolleybuses, 106,000 internal combustion engines, 5.9 thousand motorcycles, 166.5 thousand bicycles. The enterprises of electrical equipment and electronics produced 1.3 million refrigerators and deep freezers, 321,000 washing machines, 531,000 TZ, 15.5 thousand automobile accumulators, 35.5 thousand kilometers of fiber optic cables, 1.7 billion integrated circuits. The enterprises of light industry the same year produced 543,000 units of outerwear, 2.6 million pairs of shoes, 3.1 molnam. Woolen fabric, 23.5 thousand tons of meat and a food offal, 13.7 thousand tons of sausages, 288.6 thousand tons of whole milk products. In terms of milk, 1.7 thousand tons of cheese, 6.8 million decaliters, 68 million liters of soft drinks. In Minsk 21. 5% of all electric power generated in Republic of Belarus, 81% of trucks, 13.5% of knitted products, 15.9% of footwear, 89.3% of TZ, 99% of washing machines, 39.8% of medicines, 8.7% of furniture, 22.4% of wallpaper, 16.3% of whole milk products, 26.2% of flour confectionery and 30% of confectionery from chocolate, 27.6% of the alcoholic distilled beverages and 18.4% of the mineral and aerated waters are produced.
From 2005 to 2012 the volume of foreign trade in goods through the companies registered in Minsk grew from $12.6 to $38.8 billion. In Minsk 28 higher education institutions in which in 2017/2018 academic year 154.6 thousand students minus 54.4% of total number of students in Republic of Belarus studied work.
In 2012/2013 academic year the faculty of higher education institutions of the city was made by persons. More than 200 high comprehensive schools, more than 40 gymnasiums, 48 averages of special educational institutions, 26 institutions of vocational training, 4 lyceums work in the city. In 2017/2018 academic year in 278 institutions of the general secondary education 196,000 people, in institutions of secondary vocational education minus 31.1 thousand pupils, professional minus 12.1 thousand pupils studied. The number of pupils on each of these education levels is higher than in any of areas of the country. The number of teachers in Minsk minus 17.4 thousand people. The fourth indicator in the country.
In 2012/2013 academic year of 2% of pupils at schools and gymnasiums 98% in Russian studied at Belarusian.
In 2018 in Minsk 462 institutions of preschool education, kindergarten, worked.
In 2018 in Minsk 17 new kindergartens were open, and the number of children in them grew from 87.1 to 98.8 thousand because of what in terms of 100 places in kindergartens 117 children at the age of 5 years are necessary. That is the highest rate in the country. In 2012/2013 academic year of 3.1% of children 94.3% only in Russian, 2.5% on Belarusian and Russian studied only at Belarusian.
The system of the state healthcare of Minsk includes 12 stationary medical institutions for adult population, 4 children's clinical hospitals, 9 clinics, town maternity hospital, 2 centers of rehabilitation of children, hospital of palliative treatment, hospice, 37 city polyclinics for adult population, 2 medical outpatient clinics, 18 children's polyclinics, the consulting and diagnostic center,
The Center of Plastic Surgery and Cosmetology today.
On the basis of the 9-city clinical hospital of Minsk, the Republican Scientific and Practical Center of Organ and Tissue Transplantation functions. Also in the city as of January 1, 2011 490 drugstores functioned. According to 2017, in Minsk there are more than 30 round-the-clock drugstores which captured all districts of the city. The dental help appears in 11 city dental polyclinics, 1 city children's dental polyclinic, just the 9th dental polyclinic, Meditsinskaya Initiativa Unitary Enterprise. Besides, the dental help appears in 16 city adults and 12 city children's polyclinics. At the enterprises and in city institutions function 13 medical and 161 medical assistance health center. In 64 outpatient and polyclinic institutions day hospitals on 1473 beds, in 14 city polyclinics, hospitals function at home. Fast and emergency aid is carried out by forces of 146 crews of the city station of emergency medical service.
A result of realization of the principle of one window.
On the internet it is possible to make an appointment with the doctor in. For 2014. 41 Polyclinic of Minsk.
The number of specialist doctors in Minsk from 2005 to 2012 grew from 10998 to 13410.
70.5 doctors on 100,000 people of the population. A number of beds in the hospital organizations, from 17492 to 18555. 97.6 on 100,000 people of the population. Crime rate in Minsk, the highest in Belarus. 193.5 crimes in terms of 100,000 people. In Minsk 25% of heavy and 20% of especially serious crimes of their general quantity in Belarus are committed. In 2009 and 2010 growth of crime rate in the city was observed, in particular, for 2009 in Minsk the level of the revealed cases of corruption crimes increased by 36%. At the same time, according to the Attorney General Grigory Vasilyevich, in Minsk as of the end of 2008 the situation with the level of murders was observed, rather safe. Solvability of crimes in Minsk following the results of 9 months 2009 was 40.1%, including solvability of thefts -13%. Following the results of 2008. Murders -92%. For 2008 25 burglaries were committed. More than 1800, because of leaving of free access to the house, more than 900, by means of breaking of a door or through a window and a balcony. The greatest number of burglaries is made in Factory, Leninsk, the Moscow and Frunze districts. His share of burglaries in the total amount of thefts of property makes 1/7. About 14%. His share of thefts of vehicles -50%. In Minsk there are 2/3 all plunders of mobile phones in Belarus, which make the majority of pocket thefts. A considerable part of citizens expresses fears for the safety in nighttime, and the least protected themselves consider residents of the residential districts of Chizoka and Shabana.
In Minsk, 3 correctional facilities are located.
CISO-1. Pishilovsky Lock. It is known also as Volodarka because of arrangement on Volodarskogo Street.
EK-1.
Both submit to Department of Execution of Punishments of the Ministry of Internal Affairs of Republic of Belarus in Minsk and the Minsk region. And the internal prison of KGB known as American. Also in Minsk there are 6 correctional facilities of open type. In CISO-1 all death sentences in Belarus are carried out. Minsk is the largest transport hub of Belarus. He is located on crossing of the transport corridors connecting Russia with Poland and Ukraine with the Baltics. Distance from Minsk to Moscow on Highway M, about 700 km.
About 30% of railway passenger transportations in the country, 20% of automobile cargo transportation on import and 40% on export fall to the share of the city.
The city connects to other regions highways square. M. Minsk, the national airport Minsk. M. Minsk, Vitebsk. M. Minsk, Mogilev. Near the city from the route M. Minsk, Gomel. M. Minsk, Grodno. P. branches off. Minsk, Dzerzhinsk. Near the city Brest, Orsha, Moscow. P. Minsk, Slutsk, Soligorsk, Mikashevich. P. Minsk, Molodechno, Narek. P. Minsk, Maidel. And local roads joins M.
Besides, completely in the territory of the city there is Route M.
The Minsk Belt Road. In 2010 intention by 2017 to build on considerable removal from Makad the second Belt Road was sounded. Extent of Makad -2 which last site was opened on December 22, 2016 was about 160 km against 56 km at acting with Makad. Minsk has well-developed network of public transport. Besides the Minsk subway there are more than 200 bus and more than 60 trolleybus routes, the tram, 8 routes. A network of share taxis works. Since 2011 the city electric train network of routes of railway public transport within Minsk and the next suburb works. 3 means of transport. The subway, the bus, the trolleybus. Transport vast majority of passengers. In 2018 more than 770 million passengers used public transport. Buses transported 39.3% of passengers, the subway -36.7%, by trolleybuses -20.1%, trams -3.9%. City public transport of Minsk actively develops. So, from 1984 to 2014, 29 stations of the subway are built. In new peripheral areas, the movement of trolleybuses. However, a considerable part of contact network in the downtown is liquidated. Is organized, and on certain sites tramways are postponed for the allocated strip.
The rolling stock of land transport is also actively updated.
Only for 2004-2007 more than 820 new buses, more than 430 trolleybuses, 53 trams were purchased. The land technology of production of the Belarusian enterprises MAS. Buses, trolleybuses. Niemen. Suburban buses. Belkomach. Trolleybuses and trams. Cars of the subway are imported from Russia, but in 2014 the first deliveries of the rolling stock of production of the Gomel car building plant are expected. Since 2012 in the city at some stops the electronic boards which are keeping track of arrangement of public transport and specifying the expected time of his arrival are established. In 2014 in public transport introduction of a system of payment of journey by means of contactless electronic travel cards began, and for clearing of one-time coupons electronic punchers began to be established. In 2017-2018 in the Minsk subway introduction of payment of journey by proximity cash cards began. Since spring of 2019 payment by proximity cash cards and two devices with support of NF technology began to take root in land transport, originally on one tram route. In 2020 distribution of a system on all land transport is expected. Since 2017 in the system of public transport there were electrobus which at the first stage replaced trolleybuses on two routes. Since 2019 began to replace with electrobus mainly bus routes. The first stage of the Minsk subway opened in 1984. Nowadays it consists of 3 lines with a total length of 41.8 km and 33 stations. According to data of a sociological research of 2019, 1934 persons were interviewed. In Minsk about 811,000 adult bicycles and also 232,000 children's and teenage bicycles. In Minsk one bicycle is the share of 1.9 persons. The total number of bicycles in Minsk exceeds total number of cars. 770,000 personal car. 39% of Minskers have a personal bicycle approximately. 43% of Minskers ride a bicycle of times a month and or more often. As of 2017, the level of use of the bicycle is about 1% of all transport movements. For comparison, 12% in Berlin, 50% in Copenhagen. The average distance from the house before work and back in Minsk makes about 22. 5 km, that is 5 km more than at residence of Gomel and Brest and 7.5 km more than in Grodno. In 2020 Minsk entered in top -3 the most bicycle cities of the CIS, after Moscow and St. Petersburg.
Since 2015 in Minsk passes annual/a cycle carnival during which at several o'clock driving of motor transport through Pobeditly Avenue,
one of the main streets of Minsk, is blocked. The number of participants in 2019 was more than 20,000, the number of registration about 12,000. In 2017 the European Union financed the City Cycle movement in Belarus project for the sum of €560,000. About 50 events connected with bicycle subject were held. The route of Evrovelo-2 from Minsk to border with Poland was constructed. Through all city there passes the bicycle track, 27 km long. As of 2020, in the most intensive time passes 300-500 cyclists an hour. In total for the beginning of 2020 across Minsk 55 km of the allocated bicycle tracks, 196 km of cycle walking paths. When the sidewalk is divided for the movement of cyclists and pedestrians by means of a marking. In 2019, the Belarus's first service of automatic bicycle rental and electro-scooters, call a bike, since 2020, as well an automatic hire of electrobicycles started. The coat of arms of Minsk, Rise of the Virgin, represents the Virgin in red-violet clothes on a silver cloud. She is uplifted into the sky by two flying angels, and over them two cherubs. The coat of arms was appropriated to the city in 1591. According to a legend, the icon with the image of Rise arrived in the city upstream of Vizlochi from Kiev, destroyed by Mongol Tatars.
The flag of Minsk represents a rectangle from fabric of blue color with a ratio of width and length 11:18.
In the middle of the face of a panel of a flag, the image of a stamp emblem of the city of Minsk is located. The anthem of Minsk is the song about Minsk. From October 20 to October 26, 2008 in Minsk played anniversary 5 youth Delphic games of the state parties of the CISIS. Preparation and holding an action were carried out by in common National Delphic Committee of Belarus and the International Delphic Committee. The Belarusian State Circus works in the city. In Minsk several tens of libraries work. Here list of the largest. The National Library of Belarus, library stock contains 9263. 8,000 copies. In 2012, 2,606.8 thousand copies of books and magazines are given. Central Scientific Librarium. Ya. Tolosanan of Belarus. Scientific Library of the Belarusian National Technical University. Presidential Library of Republic of Belarus. Minsk Regional Library of A.S. Pushkin. Minsk City Library of Ya. Kapala. City Library No. 1 of 50. Tolstoy. Library of F. Bogashevich. Republican Scientific Medical Library. The most visited museums of the city of Minsk. 2016. The Belarusian State Museum of History of the Great Patriotic War -559.6 thousand. National History Museum of Republic of Belarus -394.5 thousand. National Art Museum of Republic of Belarus -186.7 thousand. The State Museum of History of the Belarusian Literature -135.2 thousand. The State Literary Museum of Chankakapala -126,000. The most visited theaters of Minsk. 2016. The National Academic Bolshoi Theatre of the Opera and Ballet of Republic of Belarus -239,693 visitors. The Belarusian State Academic Musical Theatre -137,570 visitors. National Academic Drama Theatre of M. Gorky -82990 visitors. National Academic Theatre of Janka Kapala minus visitors. Architecture and sites. Cathedral of Saint Apostles Piet and Pavel, 1610-1620. Cathedral of Virgin Mary, 1700-1710. Church of Saints Simeon and Elena. Red Church, 1905-1910. Opera and Ballet Theatre, 1934-1938. Gate of Minsk, Provoxelnaya Square, 1947-1953. Building of the initial section of Nezavisosti Avenue, 1940-1950. Ancient Minsk was located in the lowland on the bank of Vizlochi, at about 8 meters above the modern level of the river.
Nearby heights, the Troitsks Mountain, the area of Liberty Square and the area of Yubilnaya Square.
The most important architectural construction of early Minsk, the wooden lock. Around a not strengthened posted was located. All constructions of the ancient city were wooden. The shrubney type of building prevailed. The area of houses generally was from 9 to 25 m. The majority of houses were single chamber and only the few had an outer entrance hall. The first known stone construction in Minsk, the base of the incomplete temple of the second half of the 11th century, was under construction by methods atypical for the old Russian state, though the architectural plan of the temple is similar to cult constructions of the Polotsk architectural school. Width of the streets covered with a wooden flooring was 3-4 meters. All streets met at Lock Gate. Because of the marshy soil in the city, there were also drainage designs. The developed planning of streets remained very long. However, after the fire of 1547, the system of streets and squares was partially reconsidered, and the market was postponed from the former place in front of the lock for the present Liberty Square, located in several hundred meters to the south. Nevertheless, in an old, low-lying part of the city, the location of streets remained till the 20th century. The marshy area to the north of the lock remained almost not populated till the 16th century, until here appeared in the Tatar suburb. The Tatar end began to be built up quickly with Glavnaya Street of a northern part of the city. There was Nyamiha Street, Nemikskaya, which arose on the tradeway in the western direction.
Because of the fact that parallel to the street the dried up Nyamiha River flowed, half flooded the street every spring and fall.
In the 16th, 17th centuries, the area of the top market began to be built up and become populated actively, and at the beginning of the 17th century, new borders of the city were enclosed with an earth shaft with bastions in the area of modern streets: the Romanovsky settlement, the city shaft, Nezavisosti Avenue, Janka Kapala Street. The shaft also passed at the Tatar end and behind the Troitsks mountain on the left coast Vizlochi. Long time Minsk remained mainly wooden. In the 17th, 18th centuries, the two-storied stone town hall and also several stone cult constructions in Baroque style was constructed, including Vilensky Baroque. Catholic, a Jesuit Church of Virgin Mary of 1709, churches of monasteries of Bernardines and a Bernardinec.
The last is transformed to the Cathedral of Descent of the Holy Spirit of the Belarusian Exarchate of Rock.
St. Thomas Aquinas' Church, Orthodox Church of Saints Peter and Paul, Uniatsky Church of the Holy Spirit. As a result, in 1800 in Minsk there were 39 stone and 970 wooden houses and also 48 other constructions, the majority of which were stone. In 1795 in the city there were 11 stone temples and 6 wooden. The number of Catholic temples was reduced. In the 19th century, reorganization of a number of Catholic and Uniatsky temples in Baroque style on Orthodox canons was conducted.
On May 30, 1835 in Minsk there was a strong fire after which it was forbidden to build wooden houses in the downtown.
After that, the number of stone houses in the city increased with more than 40 in 1800 till 1027 in 1904 and 3000 in the 1917th. In the downtown I prevailed 2- and 3-storied building. In 1857 the Minsk town hall was demolished. A considerable part of the earth in the downtown belonged to noblemen, to churches and monasteries. At the beginning of the 19th century on these lands there were 62% of all houses in the city.
Suburbs. The settlement and Komarovka till 1812 were Yuridiki.
Private possession. Radzivilev. In 1841 all real estate was confiscated from Catholic clergy. The number of monasteries was reduced. If at the time of the second section of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth in Minsk there were 13 monasteries, then in the middle of the century remained only 3. In 1913 the main synagogue of the city is constructed. In 1836 development of the new place. The territory of modern Alexandrovskoye Square began. In the second quarter of the 19th century Zakharyevskaya Street, modern Nezavisosti Avenue, which soon became the main city street, and also quarters to the south of her began to be built up.
In 1871 through the city the railroad ran, and in 1873 2 railway lines were crossed that led to emergence of districts of the settlement of railroad workers and construction of the station on the southwest outskirts of the city of the time.
Urban areas considerably differed on national and property sign, and skilled workers and small handicraftsmen lived in suburbs, and the Jewish poor, near Nyamiha Street and to the north of her. A great value in the 19th century was attached to improvement of the city. In the 1830th years of the city street began to pave actively stone blocks, generally on money from stone collecting, a whip round from passing through the Minsk outposts. In 1872 Alexandrovsky Square was put. In 1874 the first city fountain is open, and in the city the water supply system operating from a water tower near Alexandrovskoye Square began to work. At the end of the century the city theatre, present theatre of Janka Kapala, opened. In 1896-1898 St. Alexander Nevsky's church with use of elements of the Russian Baroque was built to donations. In 1905-1910 the church of Saints Simeon and Elena, a red church, was built to money of the local merchant. Improvement however didn't concern suburbs, neighboring settlements and all old city. By the beginning of the 20th century the downtown represented the system of rectangular quarters with the radial system of streets and highways dispersing from the center, while suburbs were built up chaotically. At the beginning of the 20th century a number of the industrial enterprises which were located in the southeast, engineering plant, Drushy distillery, the south,
slaughterhouses, the Krakmalopatokny plant, the Technolog plant,
the southwest, workshops on repair of trains, the west, production of bricks and wallpaper, and the northeast worked Bohemia Brewery. Around them industrial settlements were located. After signing of the Brest-Lithuanian World, Minsk passed under control of Germany.
In 1919-1920 the city after small fights was occupied by the Polish troops and then is taken by the Red Army again almost without striking a blow.
Almost bloodless transitions into strange hands allowed to avoid large-scale damage of urban development. Nevertheless, for years of wars municipal services fell into decay, and many houses demanded repair. In 1923 the territory of Minsk was legislatively doubled. In the 1930th years of border of the city extended further. In the mid-20s construction of the industrial settlement of a name of Kominton and others in Lyukovka, near Paryskoye Commune Square, the street of Kropotkin and the station began. From 1920-1932 the population of the city was tripled almost because of what the problem of an acute shortage of housing appeared. However, it managed to be solved successfully.
In 1926 average security with housing made 4.4 m
on the person, and in 1930, 5.7. Nevertheless, growth of the city happened very quickly, and average security with living space by 1938 fell to the level of 1926.
4.4 m
on the person. During this period several new factory cases were opened and many old are reconstructed.
In 1934 there was a constructed 6.4 MW new power plant.
Modern CHEP-2. Considerable attention was paid to improvement of the city.
In May 1930 the city sewage network was started up in operation. In 1926-1932 3 new baths and a mechanized laundry were opened.
During this period Centralny and Pobeda movie theaters opened. In 1934 began to asphalt streets, the first Provoxelnaya Square, Kirov Street, Lenina, Sverdlova, Soviet and an initial piece of Present Nezavisosti Avenue were asphalted. Much attention was paid to construction of new schools. In 1935-1937, for example, 16 new schools were constructed, and all had assembly and gyms. Works on electrification of the working outskirts, on an Osushka of Komarovsky and Slipyansky swamps were conducted. In 1920, the 1930th years in the central part of the city active construction was conducted. The most known constructions of this period: the Government House of Bees, the Bolshoi Theatre of the Opera and Ballet, Officers Club, the main building of Academy of Sciences. All on Yesef Langbard's project. The Palace of Pioneers and the building of the Central Committee of a bedding set. Both are on Anatoly Voynov and Vladimir Varaxin's project. And the State Library. The architect Georgy Lavrov. The part of new buildings was executed in style of constructivism. First of all, the Government House and the State Library. But from 1930th years refused him. Constructed large university.
Architect I.K.
Zaporozhets.
And the clinical town.
Prior to World War II, the publishing house, the House of Party Courses, the building of Polytechnical Institute, the building of Institute of Physical Culture, Belarus Hotel, School No. 4. On the individual project. The Central House of Physical Culture. 1933. And Dynamo Stadium. 1934. Which accommodated then, viewers were also built. Also there was a free airport with the air terminal building. In 1938-1940 reconstructed the railway station.
In 1929 the small Kaplitsa of Alexander Nevsky near Alexandrovskogo Square was blown up. Opening of the Komsomol Lake was appointed to June 22, 1941.
Nevertheless, the majority of buildings of the city outside the center remained wooden, and construction of new buildings had dot character. Long time didn't exist the uniform concept of development of the city, though in 1926 the development plan for the city developed by 5N Semyonev was adopted.
The plan provided transformation of rectangular structure of the city in radial and ring, where the center would be built densely up, and the outskirts would maintain mainly one-story building. Trunk mains of the city had to become present Nezavisosty Avenue and Dolgobrodskaya Street, Kozlova, Masharov Avenue. Presented and only in 1938 approved the master plan of development of the city developed in Leningrad under the leadership of Vladimir Vidman, whose cornerstone the ideas of creation of radial and ring planning of streets and a series of green recreational zones on river banks, Svitland and also organizations of child development.
The final version of the plan was complete in 1940. In days of the Great Patriotic War, Minsk was generally destroyed. The most monumental constructions: a red church and cathedrals in Baroque style, the government house, officers' club, opera and ballet theatre, however, survived. Soon after leaving of the German troops in the city, there arrived the Commission of Committee on Affairs of Architecture at Council of Ministers of the USSR, which developed the sketch of the rebuilding plan and development of Minsk.
Lambert also participated in work on creation of the plan.
In 1946 the new master plan developed by architects under the leadership of Trachtenberg and Andrasov on the basis of this sketch was adopted. Subsequently this plan was specified 5 times. In a basis of this plan put the ideas voiced in respect of 1938. Formation of radial and ring structure of street network, development of a green zone in Coast Vizlochi, formation of the downtown near Lenin Square and Leninsky Avenue, Modern Square and Nezavisosty Avenue. In 1950 the street
Thomas Aquinas' church, which is partially destroyed during war with the monastery of Dominicans adjoining to him, was blown up, though earlier he was announced by an architecture monument.
In 1947-1953 constructed Gate of Minsk. In 1965, the Council of Ministers of Bees approved the new development plan and reconstruction of the city developed in 1963 under the direction of Lyudmila Goffer, Ivan Izaslavsky and other architects. In 1971 the plan was corrected taking into account the accelerated growth of population, and in 1982 the master plan of development of Minsk till 2000 was developed. The highest building in Minsk is the 34-story house Sale. Height of 133 m. Now, in Minsk there are 26 parks, 159 squares and 26 boulevards with a total area more than 2,000 hectares. Many parks are built in the 1980th years and need reconstruction. Besides, speed of construction of new objects of green economy lags behind rates of construction of housing. Therefore in 2011-2015 in Minsk the program of construction and reconstruction of parks, squares and boulevards will be implemented. For December 31, 2018 in Minsk, 67 organizations worked in the sphere of accommodation of tourists, including 52 hotels and similar institutions. In Minsk, all 4 hotels of category 5 stars in Republic of Belarus, 4 of 5 hotels of category 4 stars in the country, 13 of 35 hotels of category 3 stars, and also 5 hotels of category 2 stars, and 26 without category were located. 30 hotels and similar institutions were in state ownership, 19 in Republican, 11 in municipal, 28 in private, 9 in foreign.
For December 31, 2018 in hotels and similar institutions of Minsk there were 6298 numbers with a single capacity of 11,431 person.
In total for 2018 in them 785.7 thousand people, 600.9 thousand foreigners and 184.8 thousand citizens of Republic of Belarus were placed. The revenue of hotels from accommodation of tourists was 150.7 million rubles, about $75 million. Load factor of hotels in 2018 was 41%, the highest rate in the country. 469.9 thousand more people, 338.7 thousand citizens of urban, 131.2 thousand foreigners were placed in individual means of placement. Revenue was 21.9 million rubles, about $10 million. In Minsk more than 20 museums are located, taking into account departmental -150. Both constant expositions and periodically operating exhibitions are presented to them. Belarusian State Museum of History of the Great Patriotic War, House Museum of the I Congress of Erzurp, National History Museum of Republic of Belarus, Museum of History of the Belarusian Cinema, Museum of History and Culture of Jews of Belarus, National Art Museum of Republic of Belarus, State Literary Museum of Janka. Movie theaters in the city exist since 1900. For 2019 in Minsk 22 movie theaters, including 13 movie theaters, work with 24 halls, under control of government institution Kinovidruk Mingerspol Communitary Enterprise. All movie theaters in the capital are digital. Minsk Komarovsky Market, Minsk Chervensky Market, Zhdanovich, Yarachik 3, Western Market. According to the list determined by the resolution of the Ministry of Information of Republic of Belarus, the public package includes TV channels: Belarus 1, Belarus 2, Belarus 3, Belarus 5, OT, Artriter Belarus, NTV Belarus, CT, World. In addition, in Minsk the systems of cable television of Cosmos TV and M10, Minsk Television Information Networks, work. Minsk celebrates the City Day on the second Saturday of September. In Minsk there take place the next festivals: Leaf Fall Film Festival, the Minsk Spring 2009, the International Festival of Music, the Minsk Blues Festival, the International Blues Festival, May Day Festival, Global Gathering Freedom Festival, the Minsk Choral Holiday Spivay, May of Stalets, Sing, my capital. Festival of Soap Bubbles.
The Higan Festival, a festival of traditional and modern Japanese culture and anime.
A series of gastronomic festivals which will please all judges of tasty food and quality drinks. Sports constructions. Dynamo Stadium. 22246 places. Tractor Stadium. 17600. Torpedo Stadium. 5200. Dynamo Uni Stadium. It is closed on reconstruction since 2013. Big Poo Stadium. Former Locomotive. 1500. FE Minsk Stadium. 3000. Football Arena. 3000. Hockey. Minsk Arena. 15000. Chizok Arena. 9614. Ice Platform of Sports Palace. 3311. Minsk Ice Arena. 1823. Indoor Ice Rink of Gorky Park. 767. Sports Palace. Palace of Tennis. Palace of Water Sports. Skate Park. Stadium of Orbit. Soccer. In the Championship of Belarus on Soccer of 2019 among teams of the highest league, 4 teams representing Minsk, Dynamo, Minsk and Energetic Jew Act. Besides, in the city the A-League team from the Minsk district plays home games. Hockey. In the city hockey clubs, Dynamo, Kiev, Youth Minsk. The Belarusian Extraliga in a season 2012/13 level. And Youth Mammal are based. Basketball. In the city there are 3 men's basketball clubs. Smoky Minsk. Deemed United League. Vitalier, Gear and 2 women's. Horizon and Smoky Minsk. Handball. In the city there is a titled men's team on handball, Club of Ska. Also in the city the first Belarusian team on the American soccer, the Minsk Bisons. It is founded in 1991 and also 2 more clubs, Litvin and Muses, is based. The farm club of the Minsk Bisons is founded in 2012. In 2014 Minsk hosted the World Ice Hockey Championship with a washer, in 2019 the second European Games. Representative offices of the international organizations. World Bank. European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. International Organization for Migration. International Federation of Societies of the Red Cross and Red Crescent. International Committee of the Red Cross. World Health Organization. International Finance Corporation. International Monetary Fund. Representation of the European Union. Representative Office of the Union. Representative Office of the United Nations Children's Fund. UNICEF. Executive Committee of the CICIS. Economic Court of the Commonwealth of Independent States. Honorable Citizens. Alfirov George Ivanovich is a physicist, the Nobel Prize laureate. The rank is given in 2002. Antonov Ignatiy Petrovich is a professor, the Doctor of Medical Sciences, the Academician of NAN of Belarus, the corresponding member of the USSR Academy of Medical Sciences. The rank is given in 1988.
Verashkin Dmitry Ivanovich, the hero of socialist work, the steelmaker of the Minsk automobile plant.
The rank is given in 1968. Malova Elena Dmitrievna, the honored master of sports of the USSR, the honored worker of physical culture of Belarus, the honored trainer of Belarus. The rank is given in 2007. Birik Tatyana Vasilievna, the hero of socialist work, the corresponding member of AN of bees, the honored worker of science of bees. The rank is given in 1987. Bra Pyotr Ustinovich. Piotrist Bra. The Belarusian writer, the poet, the winner of the Lenin Award. The rank is given in 1980. Bulahov Denis Grigorievich, the hero of socialist work, the former painter of Construction Trust No. 4. The rank is given in 1967. Berdany Alexei Semyonovich is hero of the Soviet Union, the commander of the 2nd Guards tank case. The rank is given in 1967. Vysotsky Mikhail Stepanovich, the erudite, state and public figure. Grigoriev Yuri Panelimonovich is an architect, the national architect of the Russian Federation. Thunders Alexander Matveevich, the hero of socialist work, deserved builder bees. The rank is given in 1987. Elizayev Valentin Nikolaevich is a ballet master, the choreographer, the teacher. People's Artist of the USSR. Zizel Ivan Matveevich, the hero of socialist work, the former Minister of Industrial Construction of bees. The rank of the Honorable Citizen of Minsk was given in 1969. Tolochev Nikolai Ivanovich is hero of the Soviet Union, the former commander of a tank platoon. On July 3, 1944, among the first liberators of Minsk occupied the only survived bridge through the river Svislak. The rank Honorable Citizen of Minsk is given according to the decision of the Minsk City Council of Deputies of Workers of Lavrinovich Mikhail Fyodorovich is a mechanician, the deputy, the honored mechanician of the Belarusian Sir. Losik Oleg Alexandrovich is hero of the Soviet Union, the marshal of armored troops, caused a stir in fights for liberation of Minsk. The honorable name Minsk was appropriated to crew which was ordered by Losiko. The rank Honorable Citizen of Minsk is given by the decision of the Minsk City Council of People's Deputies of Splinters. Igor Mikhailovich is a composer. Maxim Tank, the hero of socialist work, the national poet of bees, the academician. The rank of the Honorable Citizen of Minsk was given in 1987. Bear Alexander Vasilievich, the fighter of freestyle, the three-time Olympic champion, the repeated world champion, Europe and the USSR. Honored Master of Sports of the USSR. Smolsky Viktor is the Soviet and Belarusian musician, multi-instrumentalist and the composer. Participant of the Rage and Mind Odyssey groups. Son of the composer Dmitry Bronislavovich Smolsky. Alovnikov Vladimir Vladimirovich is the people's artist of bees, the honored worker of arts of bees, the composer. The rank of the Honorable Citizen of Minsk was given in 1987. Osipova, Maria Borisovna, the hero of the Soviet Union, the former underground worker of the city of Minsk. The rank of the Honorable Citizen of Minsk was given in 1968. Pavlov Mikhail Yakovlevich is a statesman. Savitsky Mikhail Andreevich is a painter, the teacher. Filaret Bakramiv, the Metropolitan of Minsk and Slutsk, the Patriarchal Exarch of all Belarus, Sacred and Uspenska Zhirovitska Svaya monasteries. The rank is given on October 14, 2003. Sharapov Vasily Ivanovich is the chairman of Minsk-Polkom in 1954-1969. The rank is given on June 29, 2016. Yankovsky Rostislav Ivanovich is the Soviet and Belarusian stage and film actor. Yarmolenko Anatoly Ivanovich is a soloist, the People's Artist of Republic of Belarus. Also far. Write comments. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories. All of good mood and good luck.